More than half of all companies globally are family-owned or operated. Family businesses contribute 70% of the world's GDP and account for 65% of jobs. Their voices are important. Their stories must be told. Brought to you by the award-winning publication, Tharawat magazine. This is the Family Business Voice with your host, Ramya El-Agami.
As the son of a PhD in organic chemistry, Phillip Kalli was exposed to the discipline from a very young age. He distinctly remembers coming home from school one afternoon to find a makeshift laboratory set up in his London bedroom. The myriad of Bunsen burner flasks and test tubes, a father's experiment to confer his passion for science and entrepreneurship on the next generation, left a lasting impression on the boy. And yet, it took 25 years before Philip's aspirations in the family's laundry detergent business came to bear. We sat down with Philip to talk about the early days at Ideal, the importance of authenticity in marketing, and the various strengths family members add to the company. Enjoy this episode with Philip. There we go. Okay, so Philip, we just found your family business through our research, and we just liked it so much. We just liked the way you guys communicate about it and everything. And we were just curious if you could tell us the story of the family business in your own words, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's really all down to my father, who started the business originally in 1980. But he had a little road before he sort of started the company as Ideal beforehand. Basically, he was kind of young boffin, straight out of completing his doctorate in organic chemistry in London. And he was working in a laboratory for a company called British Hydrological Corporation. And I don't know if he was enjoying it so much, but he liked resolving problems. So he was working as a chief chemist, and basically it's the only time really he's ever worked for anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And to like, if you knew him, you'd understand that he sort of isn't cut out to work for anyone else. But so it's 1975 going into 1976. It was the year Rocky was released, which is important for us. So
for everybody,
we're big fans. And basically, he was invited by this laundry. It's called James Hayes Group, and at the time, it was the biggest laundry in Europe. And they were having real problems with persistent staining that they just couldn't remove using sort of conventional chemistry at the time, which was really basic. Basically, no one had applied any modern chemistry techniques to the laundry industry at that point. Certainly not the industrial side. And so someone asked him to have a look at it, and he, by chance, had been talking to a French guy about some new surfactant technology to do with something else, and basically made up some stuff in the lab. Went to this laundry, and with a bucket of product, and never used an industrial washing machine. And to be honest, I don't think my dad had ever used a domestic washing machine either. And didn't really know what he was doing. So had this guy sort of who was supposed to help him, who thought, who's this like crazy scientist guy thinking he's going to solve everything. And my dad just sort of threw some stuff in the machine, told them to wash it and rinse it, and it came out like ridiculously clean. And the guy operating the machine was like, "Wow, how did you do that?" And then he went to call his manager. Manager came back and said, "Okay, let me see what you did. Do it again." But my dad then sort of tweaked the process a little bit, and the manager was so impressed, he marched my dad into his office and then sort of sat him down and said, "Right, what is this product? What do you call it? I need it." My dad said, "I don't have a name for it. I haven't, we don't even make it." And he said, "I don't care," and wrote out this order for 4 tons of what he called Kalli's Magic Mix. So, basically, my dad got to thinking, I've got something pretty special here.
Well, I just like that Kalli's Magic Mix could have been used as to make cakes as well at the same time, right? Like it's such an omni-applicable name. It's such a great name to come up with. I love it. So what happened?
But yeah, so at the time then, after my dad had come up with this product, he went back to his boss at the time, who apparently was a guy who liked to drink. Used to come into his office, put a do not disturb sign on his door, and sort of wouldn't let people come in until he'd sobered up later in the afternoon. Apparently my dad went and knocked on his door and said, "Look, I've got a really good product here that I think could revolutionize the laundry industry. This guy was like, no way, not interested. We're not competing with the big soap companies. They've got this sewn up. So my dad, kind of disgruntled, went away and decided in the background to start thinking about how he was going to do it himself without any investment, without any sort of help from anyone. I still can't believe it, to be honest, that he's managed to set up a manufacturing plant, and we're still going today in that field. And I genuinely think he's one of the foremost experts, certainly in the UK, in laundry detergent manufacture. So yeah, I think it's quite an achievement, and he doesn't acknowledge it himself.
What I just love about it, though, like, it's one of those stories where you just realize that the moment you say yes to certain things, even if they're totally out of your comfort zone, like the most unexpected results can come from these things, right? Like, it's just wonderful and inspirational as well, even though at the time probably you didn't think of it in that way at all.
No.
So how did he manage to build the business? And also, like, how did you find the business when you started working in it? Like, what did it look like, and what did you bring to the table immediately once you started?
Yeah, well, I think that's very true. I think he's suffered from this kind of hero syndrome, where he's the guy that customers want to deal with, the guy that goes in to resolve problems. And I think for a long time, his focus was going out and getting business, because his marketing for the business, although he hasn't, he'll be the first to tell you, he won't mind me saying, he is terrible when it comes to marketing. And genuinely, if he had had someone around at the inception of the company who was really, focused on marketing, I think we could have been far bigger and more successful. So he's kind of always just managed it at a comfortable level. In terms of how he's sort of staffed the business, he's always been determined to bring family into the business.
Really?
My mum worked in the business for a short while. My grandfather, who was my mum's father, worked in the business for a while. My cousin worked in the business. He's had some brilliant people, and we've got our technical director has been with my dad since day one. He was his lab assistant at the British Hydrological Corporation. My dad used to sort of send him out to get stuff for him at lunch and stuff. So they've had this amazing dynamic since then. I mean, there's 40 years of working together. We've got this amazing lady, Sharon, who's our purchasing manager and quality control. She joined on my dad's 50th birthday. So, yeah.
So when you joined, though, Philip, that meant that you walked into not just your father's office, but to like all these very experienced people. And then you came in as the son of the owner and stuff. How did that go down?
It's tough. It's really tough. I mean, I don't know if you know anything about my background, but I worked at a music magazine, went to art college, and managed a rock and roll band. So they knew of me. I mean, they knew me since I was a kid. They would have heard from my dad what my interests were and what I was up to. I don't think they thought I was staying around. It felt like coming into a family business, even though it was my family. The family is much broader than that.
But then you did bring about quite a lot of change, right? Like when the moment that you came in, there was a lot about, and particularly like to also focus on the branding and marketing strategy here of Ideal, which is quite an interesting story. When you joined, the whole image of the company started changing. I believe you had a lot to do with that, or like primarily that was your fault, I would say. So first off, what were the surprises for you when you started working on the company? And then why did you focus so strongly on sort of, working on the branding and communication strategy first?
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much that I changed the branding strategy. It's that there really wasn't one. It was a vacuum. They had the most archaic web page that you could ever have seen. And, they had like a brochure that looked like we were operating some nuclear facility. It had a grey factory on a red background. Honestly, we should almost sort of post images of that.
Sorry, that's amazing.
But it didn't represent the kind of business that we were, because it was a group of real people making real things in a lovely factory and in a sort of rural town in England. It was a great story, and I could see that. It's funny because I don't think of myself as a marketeer, or I have no expertise in marketing, but I definitely understood the value from my time managing the band. So I realized how people bought into the idea of the band, and people wanted to be a part of something when they understood a bit more about them. So none of our competitors, none of our customers, none of our suppliers were using Facebook or Twitter or anything else. And I just started it one day. I think I might have done a Facebook first or a Twitter at the same time, and announced it in a board meeting. And they were like, "Well, before you doing that, it's a waste of time." And I'd sort of each meeting report on how there was some sort of growth. And before we knew it, we were sort of number one on this WeFollow platform as the most influential company in laundry, which is amazing.
What I just found pretty remarkable about your story is like you guys definitely had the courage to go for it, or like you somehow pushed it through, maybe without anyone realizing what you were doing. But then you went further than that. You realized the potential of marketing through digital channels, but then also to sell through digital channels. So and then came the e-commerce only 3 years later.
That's right.
That was launched, a very impressive e-commerce operation. So how did your experience on how you marketed it then inform that strategy? How did you get from one to the other?
Well, I think you quite quickly realize now that you don't need that. We used to have distributors in the UK, and I think we started to realize that we were a stronger brand as a manufacturer than some of the people that were buying our products to sell on. When you're in control of your social channels and you follow up with sort of we did quite a lot of industry trade press and exhibitions. We started to get this great reaction from people who started to recognize that we had the same values as them, or they wanted to. It's a great feeling when you don't feel you have to go and sell to people. Yeah. They feel like they've found you and they want to buy from you because they like what you're about. And that for me was all I ever wanted to do.
The family ownership factor. Do you feel like it's been really important? Has it been something that you've been able to leverage on? Do you feel like people respond to the fact that, there's that it's a family business as opposed to maybe some of the others?
I think people understand that, people that run a family business or work in a family business care deeply about the image of the business and how the business is perceived and how it functions. I think that is reflected in the customers that we have. Equally, a lot of our customers genuinely are also family-run businesses. Mm-hmm. And I think you understand the challenges that they face and they understand that you understand. And it's this kind of mutual respect that you have for how hard it can be, I guess. Yeah. That's not to say that we only work with family businesses. And for some people, I don't think it matters, I think genuinely we have customers that will work with us because they like our products. But yeah, it's something that we leverage on. It's something that we've noticed that our competitors, if they also have family element to their business, have also leveraged off as well.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? It can be a risky strategy depending on how many black sheep you have in the family, I guess. But it can also be a great thing and it really hugely work to your. I mean, imagine someone of your family walking around in a stained shirt. I mean, that just wouldn't do, right? But I was just wondering, because you did take that unconventional step towards transforming the factory into a showroom, right? I think it's called the washateria. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's the fancy name for our on-site laundrette.
It's just ideal. So I think that the washateria concept, for instance, that I was just wondering, because it's a brick and mortar investment for you guys, which is something that everyone is sort of very fearful of these days. Again, saying oh, is it worth it? Do people still want a physical experience with a brand? So if not the data, what convinced you that this was a good approach for you and that this was going to work?
It's worked on so many levels. First of all, basically, I'm a big fan of process and going on factory tours. I'm very lucky in my job in that when we work with a lot of laundries that run factories and other businesses that operate on sort of a large scale where we're supplying clean equipment. There's nothing I like more than going around and seeing what people do. And you instantly know what's a well-run business, what's a good business, who's running a business you want to be involved with. And when you see a well-run operation that's got a real vision, you want to be a part of it. And I think we realized that the thing that differentiated us from most other businesses or suppliers was that we actually made the stuff ourselves. Mm-hmm. We have the chemists in the laboratory, we've got the factory producing, we pack everything ourselves, we've got the people in our production office and in our the main office doing the kind of the day-to-day admin stuff. Lovely people, and we wanted people to come and see what we did and how we did it. it works kind of threefold. So there was that. There was also the internal PR of of getting our own staff excited about what they were doing.
Yeah.
And so by putting the washateria in, they're able to see what we make being used and see how effective it is. And, because before that, it was just this stuff that ended up on a loading bay that went out. So they didn't even know where it went out. Now they see customers from some prestigious locations or laundries, or we've got some quite high profile brands that we make for. They're walking around the factory and these guys are getting to meet them. And they're like, wow, we're making this stuff that's getting sold on these shelves in this store. That's really important. Thirdly, it's, we're genuinely really proud of what we do. So, inviting people to see us is the best way. There's no issue of telling fibs or over delivering, over promising, under delivering. This is like, come and see us at our messiest, come and see what we do. We're making the stuff, come and see it. And it's amazing how positive people's reactions are.
It's interesting that this combination between the two generations has really worked out for you guys, and has allowed you to go to the next stage. Now, when you dare look long term in the future, and I know that most family businesses think like that also with your sustainability angle, clearly you intend to be there for a while. How do you think it's going to work out now in the future? As your father maybe really steps back, who takes over that? When the inventor spirit is not actually in the business anymore that much, are you worried about it? Are you anticipating it? What's your approach to that?
We definitely had this conversation about 5 years ago, and we've had a kind of succession strategy for some years now, and we've employed a new PhD chemist, and he's really excellent. He's worked with the technical director for the last 2 years. He's aware of his potential future. He's really come on really well. We've got another PhD chemist who's working with us on a special KTP project, a knowledge transfer project, who's also in the laboratory. And we brought in quite a few graduate chemists in the field. Mm-hmm. So in terms of sort of plugging the hole where there was any sort of shortfall in innovation, I think we've more than done that.
Mm-hmm. In terms of keeping it a family business, I'm assuming that must be a priority to you guys generally, or?
Yes, it's really interesting, that idea of becoming, I am the managing director of the business, and I think I've got a good model for how we can sustain our level and become a better company and a better place for everyone to work. And that for me is really, really strong vision. And I think my dad supports that. We have had opportunities to cash in, so to speak, on the business. It's not our intention. We really love what we have. We're really proud of it. I want to be able to pass something on as well. So my wife has joined the business this year. She's got a huge value to add. Again, a completely different skill set to me. And also my brother-in-law, her brother, is our export manager, and he's fantastic. He speaks 6 languages, which is great. And we've basically, through my powers of persuasion and enthusiasm, managed to get him excited about what we do, which it still baffles me, because I really love the idea that we can get people excited about what we do, because on paper what we do is incredibly dull. It's everyday products that everyone takes very little interest in. But I strongly believe you can make anything exciting if you get people to believe that you're trying to do it better than the way it's been done before.
Well, we can't wait to see what you're doing in the future with Ideal and the magical mixtures. We hope that you thought of getting your son a chemistry set early on. As we have seen, that works. Listen to father. But Philip, thank you so much. This has been an incredibly enjoyable interview.
Fantastic, yeah.
All right. Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you for listening to The Family Business Voice. Subscribe to our channels now on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, or Spotify to be notified of our weekly episodes.